So now let's do an example of an integer variable, of how to use an integer variable in C sharp. So let's go back to C sharp. I'm going to turn on the magnifier again. And we're going to first declare the variable that we're going to use. By declare, I mean we're going to tell C sharp what kinds of variables we're going to have in this function, in this button demo underscore click function. It's similar to when you build something, a building or a model or something. You first have to get all of the parts. And similarly in C sharp and in most programming languages, you're generally required to tell the compiler what variables you're going to use, what type they are, and what their names are going to be. And the syntax goes something like this. First we, inside the function, we're going to first type the type of the variable, which will be int. And then we give it a name, I, and then we give it a semicolon. In C sharp, as well as in C and C++, a semicolon tells the compiler that we have finished that particular line. Then we push enter to get to the new line. And now we're going to assign a variable, a value to this variable I. And we use the equals operator. We'll say I space equals space, and we'll give it a value. We'll say 47. Like that. Okay. So what have we done here? First we have declared a variable. We have declared it as a type int, integer. We have given it a name, I, and now we assigned the value 47 to that variable I. Now let's do a message box similar to the hello world program. Oops. Message box dot show. Now if you remember, show is a method that belongs to the message box class that will actually display a message box, and we're going to pass it the variable that we just we just assigned the value 47. Now we're not really going to pass the variable itself because message box doesn't necessarily know how to display a number, but it knows how to display a string. And it turns out every variable type has a method called toString. So let me type a period after the I. And now I can start typing toString, and there it is right there. I double clicked on it and it filled it in for me. And toString is also a method, but it doesn't, it takes some arguments. It can sometimes take arguments, but now we're not going to have it take any arguments. So now I'm going to close the parenthesis and do a semicolon. Okay, see what I've done here? I'm using the instance of the message box class, and using the period, I'm accessing one of its members, and particularly I'm accessing the show method, which will display a message box for us, and I'm going to give the show method an argument, which is inside the parentheses, inside the wider set of parentheses. Okay, and what am I going to give it? I'm going to give it our variable I, which we're going to convert to a string. So this means that this I over here, which contains bits that represent the number 47, will now be converted to a string that represents the characters 4 and 7 in double quotes. Okay? So let's try this. I'm going to go up here to my little play button, which is start debugging. This will compile the code and actually start it running. And here's our window. And I'm gonna click on the demo button, and sure enough, we printed out 47. Now the 47 doesn't show in double quotes because it's understood that it's already a string. I know this can be a little confusing, but strings will not. You won't see the double quotes when you print them out on a message box, unless you want to add double quotes to them. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to kill my little demo app because it doesn't do anything else. Okay. Now we can do some interesting things. For example, I can create another variable. I'm going to call it J. So I'm going to say int space J semicolon, and down below here I'm going to say J is equal to 53. Right? Now in the show method, I'm going to change that I to a J. Now let's build and run. Click on demo button. Sure enough, now it prints 53. So now we just printed J. Does that make sense? Now, let's do something very interesting. Let's say, let's do a little math. Now we can say J equals J plus I. Okay? So, similarly to when you learn math, you can just use the regular math operators, plus, minus. Multiply is the asterisk, which is shift 8, and divide is the /, which is under the question mark next to the right shift key. So you can do all kinds of math, and we're just going to do J plus I. So we're going to add J and I together. But if we just add them, the result is going to get lost unless we put that into a variable that we can use later. So we assign the result of J plus I back to the variable J. Okay, so the computer is going to add J and I together, whatever values they contain. It will add them together, which will be 100, and then it will store that result into the variable J. And then here we print it out as a message box. So let's build this, run the demo, and sure enough, 100. Now once this function exits, it forgets about all these variables and stuff. So you cannot, if we declared these variables inside of this function, we cannot use them in another function. Okay? We'll talk about that kind of stuff later.